So welcome to this technical webinar from InfosecTrain. And in this, we'll talk about AZ104 and AZ500 about course introduction and few other technical parameters. And this webinar will be approximately 1.5 hours and with a technical demo presentation, as well as objectives of course AZ104 and 500. What are the market value for that? So begin with, as I said, we'll talk about introduction to the course AZ104, AZ500, and prerequisites, what topics we have in those things as a overall information about the course. And then we'll take two important technical topic. One is introduction to the virtual network, how to configure a virtual network. This is from AZ104 content. And then I'll talk about configure NSG network security group, which is part of AZ500 security course. And last, I will take your queries. So let's start with my introduction. And myself, full name is Vikas Kumar, and when I teach with UK US people, they love to call with the name called Kumar, last name, easy to speak. So I have 20 years experience into Microsoft and security domain. And in this 20 years, I started with Windows Server, Active Directory, Security Admin, and managing Active Directory, working on SCCM, Exchange profiles. Later on, infrastructure is moving towards cloud. It's come into the cloud security, Azure security, and then Office 365, which we called as M365. And I'm a certified trainer from last 17, 18 years approximately. And so worked on different IT companies in last 20 years. And from training perspective, I train to worldwide audience and weekend courses for our company. And that's all about from my short introduction. So the next is the first AZ104. So when we talk about Azure certification tracks, so as you know, the first track will be a fundamental track, AZ900. So IT industry moves into a specialization track. So if I say a high level first, so when we say for the Azure, the track, just one second. So then we further divide into multiple tracks, one for fundamental. AZ900 is your fundamental. AZ104 is your admin track. AZ500 is your security track. And then further architect track, we have 305, 305. Then we have AI, ML, and other specialization track. So now fundamental is your step 0. And after that, we move into this specialization tracks. And in those specialization track, as I said, we have some 8 to 10 levels of tracks. So 104 is your A for admin track. AZ500 is your security track. And then we have architect track, DevOps, developer track. 204 is your developer track. AZ400 is your DevOps track, and so on. and if somebody is working on the network side.
Ah,
So that's called different levels of tracks we have. So here I will talk about more focus on two tracks. One is AZ104 admin track and the security track, and why it is important. So AZ104 is your Azure admin track. So any person who is an IT industry experienced person who worked on Windows admin, security admin, network admin, storage admin, or any kind of track or expertise, when they move into the cloud, this is one of the very important track which people or companies wants. That's called your admin track. So in this admin track, we'll talk about identity, Azure AD, Azure AD hybrid, governance, compliance, how we manage Azure administration, complete networking, how to do site-to-site VPNs, point-to-site, load balancer, Azure storage, how we manage storage in cloud, virtual machine backup, how we manage virtual machines, how we deploy application on a PaaS service, app service, we call it as web apps, container, how to do backups for those workloads, and the monitoring. So almost entire admin track will come into the picture. So that will be one of the specialization track after fundamental. As I said, there are a list of tracks we have. So, and why this track is very useful. So if I say we have 100 job requirement as an example, so every job requirement need this admin track. So because that's a very important fundamental or core part of the cloud management. So anybody who is working on this 104, after that they can apply for cloud admin roles, including network management of the components, VM, storage, network. So all in and out of your cloud infrastructure part. And so that's become your cloud admin role, cloud uh, specialization role. So those are the key factor once you've done this 104. And as I said, in any job role, this 104 is mandatory. And from the exam perspective, once we done this, and anyone who is going forward to do a certification exam, so mostly Microsoft divide this into 5 categories. So identity and governance is one part, management of storage, compute, virtual networking, and backup and monitor. More and more average, it's around 20% weightage for each component in terms of exam objectives. So it means there are 1,000 marks exam, 700 is the passing. And during this exam, they ask almost each 20-25% component, something 5% here and there. And these are the core objectives where number of questions come into the picture when you do the live exam. And live exam will be around almost 2.5 hours and 50 questions. We will talk about this later on. Same, the next level of track after this is a security track. So I'll take very simple example. When we built our network in AZ104, then only you implement firewall on the network. So when you implement firewall on the network comes into security. So security is, we are covering identity protection, privilege identity management, hybrid identity, network security, parameter security, physical security, host security, patching, key vault, how to do a data security, database security, storage security, security center where we collect all the information about Azure, Sentinel. So anyone who is further enhance the skill on the security side of Azure cloud security is the focus track of 500. and this is the objective. So objective is to drive the security posture of Azure, and it's a dedicated job role in IT industry. So anyone who is interested moving towards your cloud side, cloud security side, this AZ500 is very helpful for them, and working as a cloud security engineer on the job profile front, which manage security posture, how to protect the services, and what are the best practices when anybody deploys something in cloud. What are the best practices to implement so that security posture will be improved and better, and all those job roles we need to understand on the security AZ500. And on the certification track perspective, so we Microsoft divide this into 4 components. One is identity and protection, platform protection, security operations, and secure data and application means database, storage, all those things come into the last component of the exam. And more over average, identity is little higher percentage, rest all equally divided, approximately 20-25%, 20%. But the identity and access will be around 30-35%. So same 1000 marks, 700 is the passing, and little tough exam, and we have some simulation in the exam. So altogether, it's a very, very deep level exam in terms of Azure security. So from my side, I done my first Azure exam in year 2014, almost 10 years now. Done all these security networks, all these certified exams from my end. So based on the experience, I added those percentage values. So that's called AZ 500. So now let's talk about now the first technical topic on Azure side. So one is virtual network. So what is virtual network? So virtual network is VNet. When you define your virtual networking or networking in Azure, you need to define your virtual network component. And VNet is a component which gives IP address to the VMs and build complete networking portfolio on the cloud. And as a best practice, we always use private IP range, example 10 series. So 10 series / 16. So this is 10 and 16. 16 means your class B. So class B will give you approximately 65,000 IP address. So VNet range we define into this, and we called as address space. So address space is your DHCP space, and any IP address when released to a virtual machine, it's come from this VNet range. And as a best practice, we deploy into the multiple small chunks, and these chunks we called as subnets. So this is the overall range, and logically we divide some small subnets. So example, subnet 1, say subnet 2, SQL subnet, say subnet number 3, database subnet, or storage subnet, any name you can pick up, So overall range is 10,000. Total IP address we have 65,000. So, and logically we divide into small chunks called subnet 1, 2, and 3. And here I have given range is 10.0.0/24. So total 254 IPs /24 is class C. So 254 IPs we have subnet 1. So 10.0.0. Next subnet will be 0.1.0. And the next subnet will be 10.2.0. So it means when I built my first VM here and one VM here, so this VM will get IP from the relevant subnet. So my subnet is 10.0.0. First three IPs are reserved in Azure. So first three IPs are reserved in Azure. So first valid IP of a VM is 10.0.0.4 based on the subnet. So you see, from this subnet, they allocate an IP address to the VM. Same way, I built the second VM in the subnet 1, it became 10.0.0.5. So based on that, what could be the IP address of the second VM in the subnet 2? Any guess? 10.0. What is my subnet? 1.0. So what is my IP? 1.4, because again, first three IPs are reserved. So same way, 2.4. So that's called how you define IP address. What is the best practice? Best practice is only one best practice, and the best practice is because you are doing something in cloud, you are defining your VNet and logically some subnets. So the VNet range what you are defining 10.0.0/16 to this Azure, we are going to integrate into my company network. This is my office network. So for example, this is Wipro Bangalore Sajapur Road office, and this is Cisco router. So we built our router in cloud tomorrow and do something VPN connectivity. So tomorrow definitely we will integrate this VNet with my network. So only one best practice is what VNet range you define, we make sure it's not conflicting with any of the range. So only one best practice. There should not be any conflict today and tomorrow. And second best practice is the VNet range what you define, it has to be private IP range. So private IP range means class A 10 series network, B 172.16 to 172.30 or 31, and class C is 192.168 network. So any private range as per our network network fundamental, what we already know as a basics, same range you need to assign. And when you assign the range, we make sure it's not conflicting with any of the range already exist on my network, because we are going to integrate something. So that's the best practice. And you see, securely extend your data center. So same, my on-premises data center, I will integrate tomorrow. So this virtual network VNet is doing the two jobs: give IP address to the VMs based on my subnets on my cloud network, and same VNet we will integrate with on-premises network with site-to-site VPN. That's called your hybrid scenarios. So both the objective is to be done with the help of this VNet. So when you define this VNet, you need to define your folder name, VNet name, which region you are defining, and that address range, what we discussed, class A, class B, class C, any range you need to define and build the VNet. So you build the VNet, and when you go inside to the VNet, you will see whatever the subnet you define, subnet 1, 2, 3. And later on, if you need to add more subnets, manually you can add multiple subnet manually. So what is the best practice? Best practice is if you have a single application, say example, tomorrow you are building a SAP application. So you built another subnet called SAP. So 10.3.0, another subnet number for SAP. So it means any specific set of applications tomorrow you define, you should have a separate subnet. Why? So that you can deploy the security thing on top. So you can define a separate firewall on the subnets. You cannot mix it, Example, you cannot mix it storage, SQL database also. Everything is in single subnet. It's always be a bad practice because we will discuss the firewall in upcoming few minutes. So when somebody comes to the network, definitely you need a different ports for the SQL. You need a very different ports for storage. You need a very different ports for SAP. So that's why every set of application, it is recommended that we should have a separate subnet, and each subnet we have a separate firewall on top of that. Assume we have only one subnet. Storage VM is also here, SAP is also here. Everything is mixing with the one subnet. It's always be a bad practice. Or anything else, I'll do plus subnet, build up another subnet manually as per the need. And only one aspect, as I told you, we should not overlap. We just make sure it should not be overlap anywhere. So it means you see 10.0, 10, 20, and so on. That's called the subnets. Now, network security group. NSG is a firewall in Azure. So if anybody is not aware the fundamental of firewall, I would like to tell you the basic fundamental of the firewall first. So when admin machine or anyone over internet try to come into the VM, there's a firewall come into the picture. Firewall, if traffic coming within the VM, it's called inbound traffic. And if traffic is going outside to the world, we call it as outbound traffic. So say example, I want to take RDP of a VM. So RDP works on a port number 3389. So firewall is a device, FW, which have some rules. And these rules we called as allow rules, because if anything is not allowed, default deny rule always be there. The red rule always be there in any firewall. So it means I want to come to the over internet, try to connect with the RDP. So they check rule number 10, rule number 20, rule number 30, rule number 40 disorder. If rule is allowed, it's allowed. If not allowed, there's a default deny rule always be there, rule number 65,000. So say example, RDP rule. They check rule number 10. RDP allow? No. RDP allow? No. RDP allow? No. RDP allow? No. If nothing is allowed, deny always be there. Suppose 20 is RDP allow. So rule number check says RDP allow? No. Rule number 20, RDP allowed? Yes, RDP works. So that's the way. If it allow, it's there. Otherwise, if it is not allowed, deny always be there, which is red one. We call that global deny. Now, rule number 20 is allowed, RDP, and rule number 30 is saying RDP deny. Some conflicting. Again, they check in this order. Rule number 10, is it RDP is there? No. Rule number 20, RDP is there? Yes. So wherever the rule matches, it stops the rule there. it will not check the next rule, whether it's a deny or allow. So any conflict between 20 and 30, lower number will win. So lower number is allow, it is allowed. If lower number is deny and higher number is allowed, conflict, again lower number will win. So based on the conflicting, whatever the lower number rule says, it will do the network traffic. So this way, the rule works. If nothing is there, then it's there. The generic fundamental of any firewall, how it works. And what is NSG? So InfoSec. So when we do this full-fledged training, we use this diagram. I already done a couple of trainings with the company. So now NSG. Network Security Group. So NSG is also a first level of firewall in Azure. And this NSG we can deploy on 2 objects maximum. One is at a subnet level and one is at a VM level. So now if you see this the snip tool is little slower sometime. So now you see NSG always attach on 2 objects. One at a subnet level and one is at a NIC level. NIC level means level. So you see we have subnet 1, we have subnet 2, we have a VNet, we have address range, subnet 1 range, subnet 2 range, and a couple of VMs inside the subnet. So firewall number 1 attach at a subnet level. Firewall 2 attach another subnet 2, and each VM level a different firewall. Firewall 3, firewall 4, firewall 5, NSG 6. So maximum you can attach subnet level and NIC level. First important statement. Second statement, NSG at a NIC level always be a default. So NSG at a NIC level is always be a default. So it means when we built a VM, one second. So when we built a VM, so this NIC level firewall always be a default. Subnet level never be a default. So first point, we can attach at a subnet level. Second, at a NIC level. And third important statement, NIC level always be a default. And subnet level never be a default, but admin can add manually or additionally. Why? Like a 2 protection. When somebody comes in, this is a protection number 1, and then somebody comes in, it's a NIC level protection number 2. So 2 protection always be there. One is at a sub level, one is at a NIC level. Same concept here. Now by default, inbound, outbound, we have 6 rules. Rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. Rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. So any NSG when you by default created, as I told you, by default NIC level always be there. So each NSG by default 6 rules are automatically configured. One is load balancer allow, inbound allow, Rest everything is deny. Internet allow, outbound allow, rest everything is deny. Load balancer by default allow, inbound and outbound. What is inbound, outbound? Subnet 1 VM wants to talk to subnet 2, and subnet 2 VM wants to talk to subnet 1. Because these two subnet is a part of single VNet, so by default it is allowed. So it means you see inbound, outbound. So when this guy wants to talk to this guy, for this it's outbound, and for this guy it becomes inbound. When this machine wants to talk to this guy, for this it become outbound, and this machine become inbound. So it means inbound and outbound. All subnets within a VNet is always allowed. So any VM in subnet 1 can talk to subnet 2, 2 can talk to subnet 1, all those it's by default allow. That's called inbound and outbound. Rest everything is deny. It means RDP is also denied by default. And then if we need to allow RDP, we need to do the allow rules. So where we need to allow rules, we need to allow RDP here also, RDP here also. Subnet level NSG as well as VM level NSG. So that when traffic will come, this RDP also allow, and this RDP is also allow. Next example, I want to block internet. Internet is not an inbound traffic. Traffic is going from VM outside world. It's outbound traffic. And I want to block internet. Internet works on port number 80 and 443. So if I block these two ports, internet blocked. Where we do outbound. So customer said, okay, block internet on my one VM, VM number 1, VM2, VM3, VM4. Only VM1 block the internet. So we do outbound rule in this NSG, NIC level NSG, VM level NSG, block internet. If somebody say, okay, block internet for entire subnet, we block at a subnet level because we have 100 VMs. Are you going to create outbound deny rule each VM? No, only subnet level NSG we block internet. So it depends upon the requirement. Single VM we block here, all the VMs we block at a subnet level. So that's a logical way that there are two protection. This is similar like your home. Your home, everyone have main door, right? At house you have a main door, and normally in Indian subcontinent main door have one grill door. So when somebody knock the door or ring the bell, so normally what you do, you open this wooden door, you never open the grill door, and you see whether it's a good guy, you open the grill door. Correct? The guy is not good or it's not known to you, you normally not open this grill door. What is grill door? Nobody is doing grill door by default. You only do it as a external extra security. Same concept is here. One is your subnet level firewall. One is at a VM level firewall. So same concept is here. Main door is always be there, and grill door, subnet level door is you need to do it additionally as per the additional security requirement. So primary difference between NSG and cloud native firewall, I will tell you. Okay. So I have seen there are some questions. So I will take your all questions in last half an hour if it is okay with you. Okay. So, but I will answer your all the points. Now, if it is good, let me go to the slides a little bit, and then I'll show you the live demo of the things. So now what Microsoft is saying. So now in this example, you have a one NSG and it is associated with subnet. You see, very clearly saying it is associated with the subnet. So I told you 5 minutes back very clearly that you can associate it at a subnet level or you can associate it at a NIC level. NIC means VM level. So you can see where it's associated. One more important point, which is very critical actually, and that is if any NSG I associated with the VM, say firewall number 6, NSG number 6, I cannot attach NSG 7 at the same time. So we already discussed by default the NSG can be attached at a subnet level and a NIC level, but at a time we can attach only one at a time. So it means if I need to attach NSG number 7 at a VM level, I need to remove number 6 first and attach number 7. That's called at a time. Or simultaneously we cannot attach more than one. Another important point is, say firewall number 1, I attach subnet level. Can I attach firewall number 1 and a subnet 2 also? Yes, I can do that. But it's one of the bad practice. Why? Subnet 1 is a different, subnet 2 is different. Why you want both have same firewall? No, it's always be a different firewall. Because when somebody comes into the web subnet, we need some different rules. Somebody comes in a SQL subnet, it's a different rules. So how come you do both same firewalls? No. If NSG1 is attached to the subnet 1, we need to make sure a different NSG in the subnet 2. So two statements. At an object level, we can attach only one, and one NSG can be attached on 1,000 objects. But what is the best practice? Subnet, different firewall. That's always be a best practice. So this NSG will be your NSG list the security rules to allow or deny associated at a subnet level or NIC level, which I already told you, and can be associated multiple times. It means one NSG, NSG1, I can associate multiple objects. That should not be any problem. And then in the rules, you see, allow inbound, allow load balancer, rest everything is deny. These are the 3 default rules. This is not a default rule. Allow VNet outbound, internet allow, and deny. 3 default rules. So 3 inbound rules, 3 outbound rules. Anything apart from that, it's an additional rule, manual rule. So, and you cannot delete those rules. It's always be there. So now effective rules. So effective rules means I have a VM. So NSG1 is attached at a subnet level. Assume NSG2 attached at a VM level or NIC level. And I have a VM. Here we have 6 rules, suppose, and here we have 4 rules. So how many rules are effective for a VM? So it's a 10, because reason is see, it's very simple. We already discussed, your one firewall NSG here, and it's inside the subnet VM. We have one firewall there. So if I put some rules, this rule also block the traffic. This rule also block the traffic. So whatever the total rules, 6 plus 4, 10 is effective for the VM. So now I'll show you live demo now. I'll just delete this existing VNet. And Is it we have some connected devices? Okay. So I'll make a one folder first today. Webinar. Resource group 003 East US. I built my Windows 10 VM. Oh, sorry, the virtual network first. I search virtual network. Virtual network. Select your folder. Name. VNet for webinar. Security, not right now. IP address. So I'm doing 1020.0.0 and default subnet will be there 1020.0.0. I'm going to delete this. I don't want defaults. I am doing my own subnet. You see 1020.0.0 16. Define your 16/24/8. It's all up to you. So please make a note 1020.0.0. So if 1020.0.0, what will be my first subnet? 1020.0.0/24. So name is subnet 1. My web subnet 1020.0.0/24. Subnet 2. Subnet 2 is my first subnet was 1020.0.0. Now this become 1020.1.0. This way you create multiple subnets. So now it is done. I'll build my VM, create a resource, Windows 11. So I selected my folder name, VM1, East US, no high availability, Windows 11. B2MS and username and password. So now you see allow inbound RDP. I'm doing allow RDP. So it's not a default rule. So I manually enable this. So it become 3 rules, 3 rules, 6 rules plus extra rules RDP allow. I'm not doing anything on the disk and doing on the networking. So my VNet webinar, I'm into my subnet 1, public IP, NSG, inbound port. I'm going to allow this RDP port right now. So looks everything is good, and review and create. Validation passed, cost, and create. It take 2 minutes. And now what I'm going to do, take your queries meanwhile, So now, meanwhile, so first question is from Sumit. What if exact same subnet at both sides? It is not possible at all, because what happens in reality when we work with an enterprise environment, right? So it's not like today I'm very happy, let's build a network. It's not like that. So when I build this network, VNet, I always consult from the network team on the on-prem side. So what my point is, we never do this like blindly. We consult with this team. So this network team will say that this IP is already used. Based on that, we will define in the VNet. So that's your answer. Like very simple answer. That definitely based on the planning, we'll do that. So that's the one thing. So now you see, now if I go to my NSG network security group, so you see we have VM1 NSG webinar inbound. So we have 3 rules, default rules. RDP is not a default rule. High default rules. So RDP is not a default rule because I allow RDP and outbound. So now RDP is working because my RDP rule is there. So let me try one example first for you. So webinar. So I want to connect internet or connect to the RDP. RDP work because RDP is allow rule. So now if I go to my NSG, So this webinar NSG VM1 is associated to a NIC level, and RDP is allowed. If I delete this role, which I'm not doing right now, RDP will not work. That's for sure. And now what I'm going to do, outbound, internet allow, which I show you the default rules. So internet always works. So now internet always works because it's a default rule. So say google.com and facebook.com. We don't want internet now. So I'll go to the outbound, and internet works on port number 80, 443, HTTPS, source any, destination on custom port, it's deny. What happened, we discussed as a fundamental. I want to browse internet. So what will happen? They check port rule number 310. 310, internet. They will not check the next rule, internet is allowed or not. Any conflict between 310 and 65001, 310 will work. Close the RDP. And reconnect the RDP. And now you browse, say, google.com. You will not get any page. Facebook.com. It's not a refresh page. ICICI bank.com. All the websites are blocked. So he knows simple yes, no. And now last. So we are going to launch this one, AZ104, AZ500 as a combo course. And on the weekends, so full-fledged 104 and complete security will cover up. And very limited price for this as per the screenshot, $29.99. So, and now and this one is best of class training and best of price all together. Okay, we can end this webinar here.